Well, hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Real Estate Investing. I'm your host, Sharon Vornholt, and I'm so happy you're tuning in today. I'm always excited to interview strong female role models, and this person is a perfect example of what it really looks like to be a role model. My guest today is Chicago investor Farrah Ali. Farrah is a career woman and a single mom with two sons. In just 6 short years, she's built an impressive portfolio of 38 rentals. She's completed 6 flips and has done 21 wholesales. She is also an author and has a brand new course out, which we're going to talk about. So if you're looking for inspiration, if you find yourself kind of stuck, feeling like you can't move forward, you're going to find inspiration to do just that in this episode. So welcome to the show, Farrah.
Thank you, Sharon, for having me.
Your career has been in the insurance industry. So tell everyone a little bit about your backstory and how did you get started in real estate? I mean, what made you choose real estate as your side gig? You could have chosen a lot of different things.
Well, so a little bit about me to begin with. So yes, I've been in the insurance industry for over 20 years. I kind of started back in 2001 and moved my way up into an underwriting manager. And still hold that role part-time today. But I actually got into real estate because of a situation that I was in where, I had gotten separated and and had my two kids with me and had to provide for them solely financially and myself. So what I did was I had to figure out how do I make more income, because basically walked into an empty house with nothing, had to figure out how to put furniture in, beds in for the kids to sleep in, a table to eat dinner on, all of that. And when I walked in, I was like very overwhelmed at the moment, but I also believed in myself. And I was like, you know what, no matter what happens, this situation is a lot better than the situation that I was in. And I'm going to make it work. So at first, what I did was, like most people, I went back to school and got my degree because I thought that that was going to be the next step up for a boost in income. At the time, I had a stable job, day-to-day income, covered the day-to-day expenses, but that was it. It hadn't anything left over for any other extracurricular activities for the kids or anything that that will come up as the kids get older. So I was like, okay, well, how do I make more money? So I finished my undergrad, and then what I did was I immediately did my master's right after. And you always think like, oh, wow, you get a master's degree and that people are going to be like, wow, you get this big increase in salary. But, I was grateful I got an increase, but it was like 15%. And that really didn't amount to much after taxes and all of that. And I remember looking at my paycheck, I'm like, well, this is nice, but this is probably going to take care of one extracurricular activity for my kids. So I was like, okay, back to the drawing board. What do I do now? So I started like researching online about how to make more money, how to become wealthy, all of that. And most articles that I was reading and people who have been successful all did it through real estate. So that's kind of like the common theme that I saw. So that's when I started researching real estate investing. And that's kind of how I got into it. So it's basically circumstances that happened in my life where I was kind of, directed towards getting into something that would create more income. And then from there, I went to a couple seminars and I joined a 3-day, which I was blown away by. And that 3-day is what then kickstarted my career into real estate investing.
We've known each other for a few years now, and I've watched you grow your portfolio and grow just your real estate investing business. And a lot of moms out there that are in your position today that have small children and a full-time job, which you had at the time, they're going to say, how do you do that with kids? How do you find the time? I mean, where does it come from? So how did you find the time?
Well, there was a little bit of sacrifice that had to be made, as well as reprioritizing, some multitasking and, just kind of doing what I needed to do by the day. So what I did was I would make a to-do list every single day, and the items that needed to be done, no matter what, would have like a little star by them. Like I couldn't go to sleep without having that done. The rest of the items were nice to get to if I got to them, otherwise they would get pushed to the next day. But what I realized was, when you are doing something, working full time, plus you have the kids, and now real estate is also a priority, real estate's not going to wait for you. So when I have my, my app where I have properties being fed to me based on the searches that I set up, and I see something that comes up, that's a great deal, because now I can just look at something and within 5 to 10 minutes, I know if it's going to work out or not, but initially I would stop what I was doing. I would do my numbers and see if it was worth going out there and driving to put in an offer at the property, so I could take a look at the condition of the property and estimate a rehab. So, it's kind of like every day would be different, and you just have to be ready mentally to know that you might have to stop what you're doing at the moment, take a quick look and see if it's worth it. And honestly, those times that I've had to do that, that's what actually, when you take action like that and you make it a priority, that's what works out. So I would just put the kids in the car. I'm like, okay, sorry, I was in the middle of making dinner. We're just going to have to pick up food on the way home. I put the dinner and I made it the next day. So you just have to kind of, figure all that out. And being a mother, I tell this to like a lot of other women who are trying to do the same thing. I'm like, don't be so hard on yourself trying to be perfect. You don't have to get the laundry all done, folded away that same day. If you put in the dryer, you leave it for a day or two, but you'll have to, like, those are things that you're going to have to sacrifice and do based on what's priority in your life. The laundry sitting there for a day or two is not going to make you millions, but real estate will. Then once you start making that extra income, then hire somebody to help you out.
Exactly. So I think where people get hung up is they look at your success today and they think, oh, she's different, but you really weren't different. You just decided to do what was necessary and made it a priority. And that's how it all started.
Absolutely. Yes. Because it's not like I came for money, as I just kind of walked into an empty house. I had to build myself. So I didn't have money. I didn't have that family money that I could go sit there and buy properties and put 20% down or anything like that. Yeah, I had the kids, I had supporting myself. So I think what most people take away is it doesn't matter what situation you're in. Anyone can do real estate. I really truly believe that.
Mm-hmm. You've had a big year this year. So you have a brand new book, you have a new course, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So your book, and if this, for anyone that hasn't read her book, it's called Diaries of a Female Real Estate Investor. And it is geared toward females, but for all the men out there, you need to look at this book too. It's not just for women, but women have always been underrepresented in this business. I've been in this business a long time, and they lack the confidence to join in. They don't feel like they're equals when it comes to the male-female roles, because it's typically been a male-dominated field in most areas. What part, if any, did that play in you writing this book?
Well, the reason why I wrote the book was because there were all these questions coming up, right? And I'm like, let me just compile all my answers into one book. So it was, hey, how did you do it while being a woman? Like, you don't have that rehab experience, that contractor experience, any of that. How did you do it, with no money? How did you do it with working full time? All of those. And I felt like I wasn't doing justice with my answers when I was telling people, because it's not, it's not a 5-minute explanation. I have to go into what my mindset was like, what I was going through, and mentally, emotionally, all of that. And I felt like, like, this book I'm going to write, and it'll give the true picture of how I did it as a woman, how I did it with all of those, challenges that I had. But, luckily I was part of a group that had other female investors, so I felt very supported as well. And our mentor was very open to men and women both, so I never felt that. But I did at times feel like when I would go out, especially in the beginning, because when you don't know, if you're not educated well enough, and people pick up on that, whether it's a contractor, a plumber, electrician, if you don't know what you're talking about, they're going to try to take advantage of you. And I realized that the more I knew, the less that happened. And so the fix to something like that is, it doesn't matter if you're a female or a male, be educated. If you're educated, nobody can run anything by you or pull a fast one on you.
Yeah, that is so true. It's all about education, and that is a process that never ends. So once you wrote your book, then there was still, obviously, you can only teach someone so much from a book. The next logical step was to create a course, and that's what you did, Getting Primed for Real Estate. Why did you think now was the perfect time to create your course?
Well, I knew that once I wrote my book that people would want to know more, right? You can't get everything into, like I said, a 100-page book or anything like that. And so I was like, okay, how can I help people in a way where they understand more of the basics, the fundamentals of investing? And I feel that the way to do it is you need to, in order to kind of understand the high level stuff that some of these people all talk about, you need to kind of get down to the basics and learn about, the terminology. Make sure that you have the right mindset. You want to make sure that you understand your financial situation, you understand what your challenges are, and then figure out what you need to start working on now so that you're not missing out on opportunities later. So, and some people said, well, it's it's during COVID, why would you get into investing now? Honestly, I've made more money in the past couple of years because my mindset always is there's always opportunity. Maybe certain people won't get properties on the MLS because of the competition and how it is right now in the market. But there's plenty of wholesalers, plenty of off-market deals out there. Plenty. You just got to go after that. And I look at it kind of as a blessing, because sometimes when a strategy that you've always been doing isn't working, it forces you to shift to other ways of finding deals. And that's kind of where the whole off-market thing came in.
Yeah. Well, I've always worked off market deals simply because I didn't like competing with the thousands of realtors and everybody. So that's always been where I found my deals. You covered, like you said, terminology, asset protection, all the strategies, wholesaling, flips, all those things, financing. But the two things that I really want to focus on today, which I think are the make or break things. You can learn all the strategies in the world. You can learn about financing. You can learn terminology, and you need to know all of those things. But if you don't have the right mindset, and if you don't take action on the education, then it's all for nothing. You have to take action. But if I look back to your situation, your mindset could have easily derailed your journey. If you didn't get in the right mindset, you had a lot of cards stacked against you. How did you develop the mindset? Because there must have been a process there. You don't just, even if we're both kind of glass half full people, but the challenges are still there. I mean, they're still there, and you have to find a way to get past them. So let's talk about the first piece of that. If people are feeling like they can't do it, how do they fix that for them?
Well, I do truly believe that most of real estate investing, and to even get started, is mindset. Mm-hmm. And I think looking, kind of reading about or watching videos or whatever you're doing about people who have done it. And in my experience, a lot of the people that have been successful that I read up on, that I studied up on, were people who didn't really start with much at all, mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, there was a driving factor in them that helped them to be successful. And I think that using those examples that, hey, you don't have to have a bunch of money, you don't have to have really much you could start at a clean slate and still get to be a multimillionaire. So that itself is not an excuse, because there are plenty of examples for us to learn from. So the first thing I think people need to do is believe in their abilities, believe in themselves. That's where it starts first. When you see that somebody else can do it, then you need to be like, okay, they can do it, I can do it too. I am not anybody that's less than anybody else on this planet, right? So then what you do is, once you have that mindset, you're like, okay, now you start with baby steps. Maybe you're not going to become a multi-million, real estate investor a year from now, but it may take 4 to 5 to 6 years. But everything starts, somewhere. So now that's where you then take the next step of taking action. But yeah, I think believing in yourself and followed by small baby steps is what's going to get you there.
I also think, I know I'm a big fan of accountability groups. I'm a big fan of mentors, and I know that they played a big part in my life, and I certainly have in your life. And people are often hesitant to put money out for mentorship. And I think that's the wrong way to look at it, because mentors can always allow you to go further and faster. What's your take on that one?
I 100% agree with you, Ms. Sharon, that anyone that I've ever had a mentor in my life, whether it was, getting a personal trainer to get into better shape, whether it was, Andrew Holmes and teaching me how to invest in real estate, whatever it was, right? It's always worked out, because they have already been through where you want to go. And that's really important, is finding the right mentor. So you want to look for somebody that's already doing what you're doing or where you want to be. And for them, it's like they know exactly what to tell you. They look at your situation and be like, okay, do this and this and this, and that's what you follow. So, I don't understand why people are okay spending $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 getting a college education, but when it comes to their own investment, when it comes to making, money, like they pull back. They think there's, and sometimes I don't blame people, because there is a lot of fraud out there. There's a lot of scams out there where people say they're going to mentor you, but they don't really give you much substance. But you got to do your research. You got to look to see. I always say, if you're going to get a mentor, look them up, see what they have. If they say they have 200 properties, ask for, 5 to 10 of those properties and look it up. It's all public record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So one thing that I'm a proponent of, and I know that that you are of, is you, to this day, you still have a job. You've cut back your hours, but all these years you worked your job. You don't live off of your rental income. So let's try to see if we can tell people why they should keep their job.
Well, yeah, it's really important to, as you're scaling up, not to use your rental income and use any other income that you have for your day-to-day expenses. And that's a strategy that was taught by our mentor. And it's because what you want to do is, you should use that rental income either to scale up and continue building your rental portfolio to whatever your goal is that you want it to be, or you can use that to pay off the existing properties. If you're using your rental income to live off of, then it's going to take you a lot longer to get those properties paid off. And then it's the kind of lifestyle that you want to live, or whatever your goal is going to, take a lot longer. So it's always good to have that, on the side as an investment, and then use your personal income. So that's kind of why, that's definitely why I didn't completely quit my job. But I have been transitioning slowly. I went from 5 days to working 3 days to 2 days, that kind of thing. And part of it also is, I've been in insurance for 20 years, and I feel like that's part of my identity. And it's been really tough. It's been really tough to just been like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. So I've been transitioning myself off of it. And now I've gotten to a point where, with me, I'm doing all the things that I'm going to be doing. It might be a little bit difficult to allot time, because I'm really getting into the course and more investing and looking at other ventures out there.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. That gets ingrained in our identity, but I would argue that your identity today is more of a real estate investor.
Yeah, it is definitely, but it just something that you've been doing for so long, it takes time. So I still don't use my rental income to live off of. I've been doing a few flips. I've done some wholesales in the past, and that's kind of like my play money for all the extra things that I want.
So when it comes to taking action, this is where they'll get the education. I see this within my students. They'll have all the tools there, and they get to the end, and there is this wall they hit. They don't know where to take the next step, how to take the next step, even though it's there. They know intellectually, but what do you think is the reason? Do you think they need a roadmap? Do they need more mentoring? What is it that you think helps move people forward?
I think people really need people to push them. You kind of need people. The area where I think people like struggle the most is believing in themselves and their abilities, right? So sometimes you just need somebody else to reinforce that. No, you can do this. No, get up and go. No, there's a property that come up. You need to go there now. Like you need somebody to hold you accountable. A lot of us are like that. I think it's human nature in some people, right? Some people are more able to kind of just motivate themselves, and some people need other people. So you have to figure out what works for you as a person. And part of my course talks about that, where you have to identify where your weaknesses lie. Who are you as a person? For me, the one thing that I know about myself is that I work under pressure. So I'm constantly putting myself in situations where I'm under pressure, because that is when I perform the best. Because when I don't have a full schedule, like I'll purposely schedule stuff out, maybe 3 or 4 things in one day, whether it's podcast or interview, whatever it is, right? And I'm like, it's tight, but you know what? I'm going to get it done no matter what. But if there's a day where I don't have anything going on, I'm kind of just sleeping in, or whatever the case. So I know that about myself. So a lot of it has to do with, you have to kind of go within and figure out who you are as a person, and then you just kind of trick yourself. You put yourself in situations where you force yourself not to be in situations where you're going to slack off a little bit. So, and then you give yourself a break once in a while too.
Mm-hmm. But, I think it's true that if it's not on your schedule, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big things like big jobs, or growing your rental portfolio, or creating a course, whatever that is. If you don't have it scheduled on your calendar, it's probably going to get pushed down to never.
Yes.
It's just not going to get done. I think you need goals. And I know for most real estate investors, they look at this year, and they might look out 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Have you done those projections, and do you recommend that everybody does those projections?
Absolutely. I have like my 5-year projection, my 3-year, my 1 year, and then what I want to do in the next 3 months. So I have all that, and actually my course goes into that. I have a whole, people have the business plans out there. I have one for real estate, so investing. So I have I have a whole template of how to come up with your goals, analyzing what your strengths, weaknesses are, doing a SWOT analysis, and then trying to work backwards and figuring out how many houses you exactly need to live the lifestyle that you want. So I kind of do it where, you do it where, okay, what's your current income? And how do you replace your current income based on the current lifestyle? Then I have a goal where it's, what is the ideal life you want to live? And then how many houses do you need? So I do both of those, because people need to know, okay, what's the bare minimum? And then if I want that Ferrari, or that whatever car you want, or the nice house, then how many houses do I need? And we work our way backwards. It's called the financial freedom calculator, is what I kind of put together in my course.
Yeah, that's a great idea, because people always think I need $1 million, or I need this. And I think for real estate investors, you always say, how many paid off houses do I need? That's your benchmark.
Exactly.
And another thing that I think, we all know that we have areas that we're not great at. It's not our area of strength. And from the time I was a child, it's okay, get better at this, just practice, work on this. And I've really changed my philosophy in it, especially since reading a book called Who, Not How. I think you reach a stage in your business, and it should be probably much earlier than what most of us did it, where you work. There are some things you always need to be improving. So that's not what I'm talking about. But if you really don't know how to build a website, don't learn how to do that. Go find somebody. If it's going to keep you from making money, look for a who that can do some of these things that you're either terrible at or that you hate doing. You mentioned getting somebody after a while to help around the house. You could have kept on doing it, but you didn't once you were able to not do that. And I think it's the same thing within real estate. Everybody needs help, and what you need help with will be different than what we might need help with. But you need people, and you need systems, and you need processes.
Absolutely. You need a good support system. If you're going to go into real estate investing, hang out with people who are actively investing. You're going to learn so much just by kind of connecting with them. And then, a support systems. We do that like in our investing group all the time. If I'm I can't get to our house and I know somebody that lives close by. Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you go check out the house and I'll take some pictures? And I will do the same for the other person. So you have to grow your network.
Grow your network. Yeah, that is so important. Well, Farrah, I just barely touched on your course. Is there anything, I'm going to put a link to the course, to the book, and to all of that. But is there anything that I have left out that you want to particularly mention at this point and getting primed for real estate?
Yeah, the one thing that I did want to mention about my course is, especially in that mindset module that I have. So it has 9 modules. And I think each one is very important, but the very first one I have in there is about mindset. And I have that there for a reason. I actually have that because anything that I went through while investing, there was a time period where right in the beginning, I got my first property pretty quickly, but my second property took me about 9 months to get. And that at that point, I almost wanted to quit. I was like, this is not working for me. That was just beginner's luck. Like all these stories that we start telling ourselves. And in hindsight, after I got my second, third, fourth property, I realized that that was the time where I kept putting offers in, getting rejected, at doing my numbers, that I was actually getting really good at that. And once I got my second and third, I just kept going from there. So that time period was a blessing in disguise that I didn't realize. So just like that, I have other scenarios that I go through in my module where like, okay, this is how you're going to feel. I'm already giving you a heads up of how you're going to feel so that you are consciously aware that you're going to probably encounter that at some point, but you're going to be like, nope, she told me to do this and this and this. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to move on. And slowly what happens is these initial challenges that we all have as growing entrepreneurs, investors, right? Everybody goes through them. Most people, they just end up, just kind of stopping and not moving forward. But if you want to be different, if you want to be a multimillionaire, you have to do things differently than the average person. So if I'm already giving you a heads up that this is happening and you keep moving forward, you will succeed.
Such an awesome story. So what's next for Farrah Ali?
Well, I'm really excited because I'm actually going into like a new venture in real estate investing, new construction. So I've been going to Florida, in the past 2-3 months, kind of every couple weeks or so, along with some other investors. And we're actually going to be building duplexes. So I've bought a couple pieces of land already. And the plan is to build 18 duplexes for now. That's the initial plan, initial goal, and then we'll go from there. So very, very exciting. I'll still invest here and there in Illinois, but it won't be as much as I have been because my focus will be out there in Florida.
Yeah, that's exciting. Think about that for a minute, folks. New builds, not so many repairs, warm weather.
Yes.
Yes.
Diversify the market a little bit, and then eventually maybe go into some other states.
Absolutely. Well, Farrah, as always, it's a pleasure having you on the show. Before we wrap up today, though, I like to ask people, what do you have any final advice for people just getting started? You kind of touched on mindset, but and people do get to the point where they want to give up. Any final words of wisdom?
Yeah. So what I would say for people who, don't have the funds or anything to get started, because I think that's always a top excuse. Well, I don't have money. There are a lot of free webinars out there. There's a lot of free seminars that people do, or they're minimal cost. There's books that you can read. Everybody can start somewhere. So for those people who are limited, have financial limitations, there's a lot of great information, free information out there that you can tap into. And then for those people who, don't have that as a limitation, maybe time is a limitation, that if somebody who's working full time and has kids and all that can do it, you can do it too. You just got to reprioritize what's going on in your life. Maybe you'll have a couple less social gatherings that you might have to go do. That's okay. But there's always a place to start for everybody and anyone. So those are my, kind of my final advice is at least start somewhere. please get a mentor if you can, because that will really help.
Well, that's great advice. What is the best way for people to reach out to you? And I know you have some freebies on your website if you want to mention those.
Yes, so my website is farrahali.org. That's FARRAHALI.org. On my website, I actually have a couple of freebies, which is a partnership assessment checklist type of thing, where if you're going to partner with somebody on a real estate transaction, everything that you should pay attention to, because it's really important. We do, when it comes to marriage, right? Like, people date, get to know each other for years. Business is really no different. When you're going into a business, you'll be surprised at how people change when money starts flowing in and something wrong happens. So it's really important to assess who your partner is when you're investing in real estate. So I have that checklist for you. And then also I have a transaction checklist. Sometimes when you get so busy doing stuff, or if you're even newer, it would be nice to kind of just check off everything that you need to do, from, giving earnest money to making sure you're buying insurance for your property before you close on it. Things like the little things that we can forget. So I have that as a checklist. And then there's also a 25-minute webinar on my website, just about the blueprint to getting started in real estate investing. Like a precursor to my course that I give out.
Awesome. And I will put all the links to the book, to the course, to everything in the show notes. Thanks again, Farrah, for coming on. And folks, I will appreciate you coming out every week, week after week, and I will see you same time, same place next week. But please head over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. I would really appreciate it. And thanks so much. See you next time.